Hi everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and this is at the end of the year, and this video is going to be the video of my favorite tarot decks in 2019. I have left the oracle separately, so I'm not going to make it a very long video, but I do hope you are going to enjoy it, so grab a cuppa and let's move on. I was actually trying to separate my decks that I picked in certain categories. I definitely noticed that most of the decks, where I was focusing on most of the decks that came out in 2019, but there are also some that I got end of 2018, let's say, and haven't used them much last year. So first category, which I kind of created, which wasn't very easy to put them into categories, but let's just go with that. I picked like great readers. I read professionally, meaning I read for clients, meaning I use a lot of decks, and I love using a lot of decks, and some decks, as you know, are better suited to use for readings for other people. First of all, these decks don't have to, or what I pick, I don't want these decks to be scary. So Four of Swords in my decks that I use for clients, I don't want it to be sick person dying on the bed, just because its image is very impressionable, and I don't want people to feel like they're going to get sick, where tarot readers know that Four of Swords can mean so many different things. So I'm trying to find more neutral and more all-encompassing artwork for decks that I use for client readings, which doesn't mean that I don't want any, negative cards in there. Of course I do, but not necessary in kind of this very narrowing way of reading. So what I noticed that from feedback also, which people give me, what reads great, definitely Chris N, Pixie Curio, she scored gold for me as with this Lightseers deck. And Lightseers, it came out in a very, with this haze of drama, and there was this huge discussion that happened about the Ten of Swords that Chris N put out, but nevertheless a lot of people love this deck, and I feel like this deck reads great. And I actually very often have gotten readings, even though not have gotten readings, but have gotten questions, even though I always say what decks I use in my in my readings, but often people will write me back and said, I forgot what deck was it, can you write me just quickly what deck have you used, because I really love this deck. So people respond to this deck emotionally, and they find it very easy to relate to, because it's much more modern. And Lightseers Tarot, definitely a great deck for readings for other people, of course readings for yourself as well, but it reads great. Another great reader, and this one came in last year, but I love this deck so much, is the Spolia Tarot. And it's an amazing kind of rendition on Rider-Waite-Smith, and maybe even Minchiata, because it has element and zodiac cards added as well. So this deck is a great reader. And again, it has such a unique, it's a collage deck, but it's so differently made. It's really beautiful. Love the feel of the paper while shuffling. It has this beautiful sense of I don't know, it just makes this cool sound. So it's a really beautiful deck, and it has a lot of white space and contrasted colors. It's one of the best readers out there. So the Spolia Tarot, really awesome deck. And I actually was surprised that the Muse Tarot by Chris N, it also reads really great. I have, to practice, I have done a sale of what do I need to know right now readings from my website, and I read exclusively with this deck just because I wanted to see how it reads basically, and it is cool. It reads great. What Chris N managed to do somehow, you know, the cards actually, like in tarot, good tarot decks, there is a theme between the cards, and there is some form of connection that the cards reveal to you when you read, you know, when you read tarot. You want to see connections between the cards that you pull. So this deck also does it, and it's much more modern than Lightseers in some way, or maybe more abstract. So I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but a lot of my friends prefer this one to the Lightseers. Lightseers, it's true, it is quite a young deck. It has a young feel. But this one is really well suited for like business readings, for me, in my opinion, or like creative thinking. I use this image in my dream board, map. So come on, focus on this beautiful horse. It's a lovely image. So yeah, the Muse Tarot is a great reader as well, and it's really one of the coolest decks that came out in 2019, in my opinion. Another great reader, which I want to mention, even though it's an old deck and it has been on market forever, it's Lisa's de Saint Croix tarot deck, because I keep coming back to this deck. I keep using it, I keep reading with it. People also love it. It's Lisa managed to capture some type of universality with this deck. So it's a beautiful reader, and it's a good reader because it's quite neutral, and in a sense like quite modern too, even though more from this kind of fairy tale like world. But yeah, it's really cool. It's a great, beautiful reader, and the booklet Lisa wrote, it's also really cool. So I really appreciate this deck, and I use it a lot ongoingly. Great readers. Oh yeah, if you like Tarot de Marseille, I really like this year 2 Tarot de Marseille decks. So one is this one, the Wilfred Houdouin, I think it's his surname. You can take a look here. I'm not sure how to read that, but I think that's how you read it. And this is edition Millennium, and what he did, he really used sacred geometry to kind of like incorporate into the cards. So in the old tarot decks, sometimes you see that, like, you know, heads are cut off, or the images don't fit the frames. So he kind of cleaned it all up and made this deck look really, really beautiful. So if you like historical decks, this is definitely one of the most beautiful decks out there. And this is the Tarot de Marseille, which also was in my historical pile, but it is a great reader. And another great reader, which I'm going to use from the Tarot de Marseille, and one of my favorite decks ever, is this Tarot Ozarks by Pranik Room. It is just my favorite deck in Tarot de Marseille. I just love the colors so much. It's upside down. I love the colors so much, and it reads so good. It's my favorite Tarot de Marseille deck since last year. So if you haven't seen this deck, I'm going to put the names of the decks, hopefully, while I edit it for you, so you can see what, you know, you can check them out. But yeah, it's just amazing deck. So the colors of this deck, the kind of joy it brings me when I read it, it's amazing. So these two also great readers. Anything else that I wanted to add? Maybe let's just leave it at, no, actually, Story Medicine Tarot. Yeah, I use it for readings often, and also people love it. So it's an amazing deck by Jessica Zinchuk. She's actually working on another deck. I hope I'm going to show it to you at some point. 2020, and that we're all going to see it, you know, because I hope she will finish it. She's doing the second kind of part. She wants to do a 4 parts of her decks. So the second part is with animals, and yeah, this deck is just incredible. It's simple. It calls for slowing down, for really working with the image, and story medicine. So also for storytelling, for journaling. It's a punchy deck. I really love it. It's a different one. It has a different embodied feel to it, and does give great readings, really. So this is the Story Medicine, also a great reader, and one of my favorite decks of all times, I think. So beautiful art. I mean, they all have beautiful art. Let's not, you know, let's not lie to anybody here, but there are certain decks that have just done so well on the printing side, on the artwork side. So the Moonchild Tarot, I think it's one of the decks, you know, I loved it when it came out. I used it a lot, and then it kind of went on the back burner, but this deck is just so beautifully made. It's the feel of the deck, the gilding, the, you know, the imagery. And I actually moved on my Starchild Tarot this year. I was holding on to it, hoping that, you know, I'm going to like fell in love with it, or like really, you know, read it, and yeah, it just didn't happen for me. So even though I got it from a swap from Laurie, and I loved it and I was hanging on to it, but I just, yeah, never read with it, never reached for it. It was just too pink for me for some reason. So the Moonchild I reach for much often, and I actually love it. And I love the color scheme. I love how it looks. But I do use it more for readings for myself. I don't know why it is. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I can't really answer this question right now, but it's really well made, and it's a great, beautiful kind of piece of art. Another deck that to me also is a great reader, but I also read it mostly for myself. Not only I used it for client readings, is the Elgoliath Tarot, and this is also one of the decks that is one of my favorite decks ever. It's really amazing, and it's just black and white. It's huge. It's got some oracle cards in it, and doesn't have humans. It's a shamanistic and, you know, earth-based deck, and it is beautiful. It's also punchy. The black-white shadow light kind of proportions are well kept. You know, it has a few really scary cards, yeah, I just really enjoy using it, and it's beautiful. It kind of connects me back to that raw part of myself. So Elgoliath, great reader, but also, yeah, amazing artwork, and a very unique deck, which, you know, we don't have too many of those in our collections. Beautiful art, and also for me a great reader, but because I don't have this deck for that very long, it's the Folarcos Tarot. And also I really encourage you to take a look at my Inspired Tarot Map series. I'm going to link it up right now. You can click on it, and at the end of the video, because I have done a lot of interviews and catch-ups with people who created those decks. So with Carmen Sorrenti we have caught up, and she is just so inspiring and so much fun. And we talk about Wally Myers, we discuss the build-up of the tarot deck, we discuss certain cards from this deck, which I found, you know, like I don't know how to read them, or what did she mean by creating them. And it's really beautiful, inspiring interview. And there's so many of others with the Story Medicine, with Jessica, with other people. Just take a look at this playlist, Inspired Tarot Map, and maybe, I hope you find something interesting for yourself. So Folarcos Tarot is really great for dream work, for working on your creative juices, for kind of inspiring your intuitive reading, but also because it has the structure which Carmen created in such a beautiful way. It's actually a really great reader, because it takes you into the story, and this is a beautiful art and beautiful deck, and one of my favorite decks as well. So Oh, that was the Dream Work Storytelling Intuitive Readers kind of deck. So another one is the Dream Keepers Tarot for the dream work and the storytelling and intuitive readers. It's again one of the decks. I really love this deck so much. It's more on this vintagey side, and it has this just incredible artwork, very dreamy, very kind of yeah, just evocative. And some of the cards are just so incredible. Like, how is this magician? I love it. The Hangman is so beautiful in this deck. It follows closely Rider-Waite-Smith. It's of course, you know, totally different imagery, and that's what's wonderful about the new decks, that you can still, you know, recognize the archetypes in them, but they're totally different to what you see in Rider-Waite-Smith, let's say, or Thoth or Marseille. So amazing deck. Dream work, creative thinking, storytelling, journaling, and Dream Keepers Tarot by Elise Houston. Very cool. I might actually get Liz onto the interview as well. Another one is this Mystical Dream Tarot, and this one is mass produced and it's created by Janet Piedilato. And also, if you have this deck or you love this deck, I have reviews of most of these decks also, so you can take a look at another playlist of mine. There's Oracle and Tarot reviews, and you can see a lot of reviews. I've done most of these decks, but this deck came out published by Edison Books, and Stephen Bright, actually, on his YouTube channel, he is catching up with Janet and they're discussing different things from the deck. So he discusses his deck and she discusses stuff from the Mystical Dream Tarot, and this is like amazing tarot deck. I love the you know, the color scheme of this deck. It's just so beautiful. It's such a, come on, focus. It's just such a beautiful deck, and this one is full on created from the dream images. She hasn't done the art. The artwork was done by whom? By somebody. Sorry, I probably gave it away. I can't remember now. But the artwork was done by somebody else, and she used her dream images. And it's so archetypal. It's so symbolic. It's such a great deck for intuitive reading. Again, she used Rider-Waite-Smith as the starting point. So yes, it is still a tarot deck, but this one is totally different. It's harder to recognize the kind of archetypes, but it's such a wonderful reader because the cards connect to one another really beautifully. So again, great for dream work, great for storytelling, great for journaling, great from, like, you know, stretching yourself outside of your comfort zones. If you, for example, only read with one system, the Mystical Dream Tarot, beautiful deck. Another one that really I felt was so surprising and such a beautiful deck and not talked about too much is this Ember and Aura Tarot, and this is by Jamie Richardson. And these are the backs. It's really gorgeous, kind of brownish. And again, this is a deck that really surprised me in this year. I haven't expected to like it so much, just because, you know, the artwork is beautiful, but it's not really my typical art I would go for. Yet, when I started using this deck, it's more on the peepish side, which I love, but also it has this softness and sacred feminine feel to it. And Jamie writes in her book that she was going through a deep sacred feminine awakening kind of journey when she was creating this deck. And you can really sense it in the pictures, in the images. It is really a great reader and very beautiful, soulful, kind of hug-giving deck. So yeah, highly like how beautiful is the star, or the world for that matter. and one more, and the High Priestess. So it's really a gorgeous deck. So if you guys don't know it, take a look. I also did a review of it, but yeah, it's one of the most beautiful soulful decks from this year. My Mary related deck is the Mysteries of Mary, and I can't remember now, did I get it? I think I got it this year, yeah, because I've done the first Walking with Mary without it. But this is by Hetien Grobler. Again, the interview with Hetien you will find in Inspired Tarot Map. You can figure out for yourself how you feel about it, because she gives a lot of reasons why she, is devoted to Mary, why she created this deck, what are these altars, and all of it. It's such an interesting chat we're having. So this Mysteries of Mary tarot deck is basically a devotional item to Mary, but it is like your spiritual initiation each of us kind of can go on to. So she's used a lot of images from Mary and Christ and like Christian images, but she created an altar for each of the cards. And this deck feels such a, like, because Mary and Christ, obviously, they're so energetically charged, this deck feels really beautiful and healing. And because Hetien is also so devoted to Mary in this most beautiful, pure way, this is also something that I feel, if you're interested in any way in an awakening to the sacred feminine side, Mary and Goddess, and Mary from outside the religion as a carrier of lineage of the Goddess, it's one of these amazing archetypes that I encourage you to explore, because it changed my life this year. So another beautiful deck that I got this year is Way Home Tarot. It's by Autumn Whitehurst and Barbara Wintner. I have also an interview with these two ladies. It was so much fun to catch up. First interview with two people. And this deck, the artwork was created by Autumn Whitehurst, and Barbara wrote also the book What the Fuck is Tarot, so it goes with this deck. And it's such a awesome, modern, smart deck. Great reader as well. The chord cards are all silhouettes, but you really get the sense of the energy of the chord card when you look at them. Amazing artwork. A really incredible kind of simple yet to the point expression of tarot archetypes. So I really enjoy this deck a lot, and I use it a lot. I should post with it more, because I use it more than I actually show. But it is a great deck and a great reader. And if you're looking to, for those decks like Wild Unknown or even Ember and Aura Tarot, that kind of cross over a little bit into the peepishness, but they're not peep decks, but they're not really fully illustrated. These two are also great decks to play with. So there is one special mention of the deck that, with Natalia Ouroboros. If you haven't seen her channel, you want to, on YouTube. She's also on Instagram, but she got many of us here in tarot community interested back into Tov deck. So she has sent me as a gift this vintage version of Tov. And I have to say that changed how I see Tov. I don't know, I've never felt this. It feels good to hold this deck in this older version, and I thought it was a bit of a VIP look at it. Before I had this version, I thought, oh come on, how different is it going to be for me to use the vintage one compared to the one that I have, the modern US games. But modern US games is actually so contrasted compared to the old one. The paper is different. It just feels so good for some reason. And I had a love and hate relationship with Tov, because I love the artwork. I love what Frida Harris did. I really enjoyed the smartness and intelligence of this deck. I love the astrology added to it, but it still kind of for me was like there was just something about this deck that I couldn't glue with it. And this vintage version actually helped me with doing it, because, you know, I've done workshops with, like, I went to workshops and studied stuff with people, with teachers. I was really kind of, you know, at some point over my tarot journey, really involved in learning different systems of tarot. So I have learned all these different systems of tarot, and Thoth was always kind of calling, but it was never really quite, I never really quite got it, you know. I was just like, what is it with you? But this version is beautiful, and yeah, highly recommend if you can find one. It's not easy, but if you can, it's worth having. And so there is few more decks that I want to mention. The past life reading, you know, this is this Tarot of the Past Lives by Red Orchid Publishing. It comes with this cool booklets also, and it looks like a historical decks. You know, she used images that she found on public domain. But yeah, it was a surprising reading. I've got the readings also on my channel, you can take a look. And it is a cool deck to actually explore past lives. You know, every deck like this will have its limitations, just because, you know, it's hard to include all of the countries, all of the times, all of the possibilities, of course. But you can take a look at the interview I did with Melanie, with the creator, and she speaks about this deck and how she was choosing it and why she created it. It's also in the Inspired Tarot Map, and it is an interesting, very kind of unique deck. And I don't use it often for other readings, but very often I kind of check something, like, let's see, maybe from past lives what will come up, you know, just to give us a little bit more of the what this could be about. There's another historical deck that I wanted to mention for this, from this year, and this is this Tarocchi Fine della Torre from Bologna. It came in this beautiful box. Again, another gift. I know, I'm sorry, I probably must be annoying to a lot of you. It's just like, go away, Kasia. But that's sometimes what I felt like when I was watching Kelly's videos, and, you know, she was getting all these things, and I'm like, I want them too. But this one was sent to me because my friend doesn't use the historical decks anymore. So God bless her. And this is a beautiful deck too. Just the colors, you know, it feels like, you know, somebody just took pencils and colorful pencils and made the deck, colored them. So it feels great as when shuffled. The cards are quite large, as you can see, and yeah, different feel to the regular Marseille deck. It feels a little bit more like La Corte de Tarocchi, the Tarocchi. It just feels, yeah. Oh, I just dropped some cards, but nevertheless, it feels great. So this Tarocchi Fine della Torre, it is beautiful, and especially this version in the box, it's really great. So few more decks, and that's it. I wanted to mention the Efflorescent Tarot deck. I have this deck, and for a while now. I know it's not a new deck. I've got this a little bit different version. I think it's more laminated, so I think the colors pop up a little bit more. I remember first seeing this deck at Elise's, the White Woman, you know, before her conversion to Christianity. She was talking about it, that she likes using it when she feels sad, because everybody's sad in this deck, so it doesn't piss her off, that, you know, she doesn't see any happy faces. So it's kind of cool. But the artwork is really, really beautiful with this deck as well. And it's a great reader actually too. It could have been easily in the great readers category, because it's Rider-Waite-Smith basically with different artwork. It's really amazing. So I love this deck. And three more decks. One is the Golden Tarot. I have used it a lot in the beginning of 2000. Sorry, my camera stopped. So it's such a great reader. Golden Tarot by Kat Black, really, really cool. Rider-Waite-Smith with an amazing collagey vintagey, kind of medieval feel artwork. It reads great. It has a lot of, if you love art, in the booklet there's all this research that she's done into the artwork, where the pictures come from. It's really beautiful and a cool reader. And the two last ones, one is the Black Lily. Again, this one I got at the end of 2018, but I haven't used it that much then, obviously. It's a tiny little deck, very strange artwork. Not for everybody, I know. It's very raw, it's very rough. I like using it when I feel a bit like, just give me, it's like, you know, like kind of a bit crazy in my head. It has this feel of like being a little bit off, this deck, like it was rotten or something, but it has some, yeah, it has something for me which draws me to this deck, and definitely it belongs into the beautiful artwork category for me as well. I would never use this deck to read for clients, but yeah, it's a great deck. And then the last one that I wanted to show, and I don't have a review of this deck yet, but I will do one, is William Blake Tarot. And I have gotten it this year, I think, from a swap with the book, but it's easily available. I think it's around 30 bucks, you can get it. And yeah, it's this illustrations from William Blake, and the book is exquisite. It's really great for learning, and for, it's philosophical, it's deep, it's smart, and I think it's available free online as well. So you can search for William Blake Tarot Deck or Tarot Companion Book, and you'll find it online. It's beautiful. It's a really cool deck. So I'm going to do a review of this one, and I want to use it more as well, because it's very, this one is great for like philosophical questions, and if you want to, you know, check stuff out for yourself. So I think that's it, my friends. This is my tarot deck of 2019 video, and I'm going to do an oracle deck as well for you, but yeah, I'm going to go online and check all the other videos that you guys made. So hope you enjoyed it. Much love, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.